Hey, it's Marie Forleo, and you are watching Marie TV, the place to be to create a business and a life that you love. If you or anyone you know is struggling to figure out, what should I do with my life? In other words, what is your life's work? My guest today is here to help. Chris Guillebeau is the author of the New York Times bestsellers, The $100 Startup and The Happiness of Pursuit, and is the creator and host of the annual World Domination Summit, a gathering of creative, awesome people. During a 10-year quest, Chris visited every country in the world. He's also a longtime entrepreneur who believes in creating freedom while truly giving back. His newest book is called Born for This: How to Find the Work You Were Meant to Do. Chris Guillebeau, it is so good to have you back on the show and finally in the studio, because we've done this several times, but it was always Skype Town, USA.
Marie Forleo, thank you so much. It's a huge honor. I always come back whenever I have a book.
Yeah, and which I am so excited to talk about this book, because when I saw the title and saw what it was about, I said, thank the Lord someone is talking about this, because so many folks that I get a chance to meet and to connect with online struggle with this very topic of figuring out what they should do with their lives. So let's dive into it. What inspired you to really tackle this subject? Because it's a big one.
Well, I know this is something that we're both very passionate about because we both hear from people all over the world that are trying to figure out their path and like what's best. And I want to say, since the last time I was on Marie TV, I went out and did a big tour. I went to like 30 cities, and I met more people from Marie TV than any other source. When I went around to different cities, I had been on national media. I'd done some really, really big shows, lots of newspaper coverage, and I heard from 5% those people and like so many viewers from Marie TV. So I want to say thank you for that, not to interrupt or sidetrack your question.
No, it's okay.
I look forward to hearing from many more. And as for what inspired it, I feel very fortunate in that I feel like I have found the work I'm born to do. I feel, like I have the greatest job in the world. I feel like I've won the career lottery. And I think if you talk to people who also feel that way, they say things like, I would do this for free. I love my work so much. And I wanted to understand what that process was like and how it could be replicated. And I think a lot of those people, we feel fortunate, as I said, but we've also made different choices. And so we've come to different turning points in our lives. We've had the opportunity to do one thing or another. And for whatever reason, we've chosen this path. And so how is that? And how do people make those choices? What do they do differently? And how can everyone make those choices to find the work they were born to do?
Were you intimidated at all going at this subject? Because it's a big one, and there's so many different ways that you can tackle it.
It's a big subject, but it's really important.
Yes.
It's really important, and it's really fascinating, and it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to talk to people who have found the work they were born to do because they feel so alive. And you can see it in them. You can recognize it in them. You can sometimes even come across this in your own life if you meet someone that you knew a long time ago, maybe like your friend from high school or something, and you lost track of them. And then 15 years later, you see them on Facebook or somewhere, and you realize like what they have gone on to do, and you're like, that's exactly what they should have done. Like that person became a lawyer, and I didn't know they were going to do that, but they were always really analytical. They were good with asking questions and solving problems. Or they became a teacher. Of course they're a teacher. That makes perfect sense. They were always so caring. They were always so instructive. They were good at helping people. So I don't think I was intimidated. I was inspired. I was excited about it.
That's awesome. One philosophy in the book that you and I share, and it's something I talk about as often as possible, is this idea that everyone should think like an entrepreneur, whether or not you want to run your own business or you want to start anything. It's just that mindset that is so essential these days. And I was wondering if you can speak to that.
Yes, everyone should think like an entrepreneur, whether they want to be an entrepreneur or not. There are lots of great careers in which you have to work with an organization or a company, and that's great. My mom worked for NASA for more than 30 years. You can't be an astronaut or support a space shuttle launch as an entrepreneur. That was something that she wanted to be part of a greater team. I interviewed, one of the stories in the book is the first female firefighter from Mississauga, Ontario. And 21 years ago, there were no female firefighters there. And she set out on this journey to kind of crack the system and figure out, okay, how can I really want to be a firefighter, but it's really hard and I have to pass all these tests. And, she was also very small. She weighed like 102 pounds, but she made it work, right? And so I think even in a traditional job, you have to look out for yourself. You're always self-employed, even if you're employed. Yes. I think, you're ultimately responsible for your own career. And if you want to not only be stable and create security, but also to create the best possible work and solution for yourself, you have to think entrepreneurially.
So, from your research and from your own experience, do you feel that each of us was born for a specific job or a specific calling, or have you discovered that perhaps there's multiple options for each of us?
I think it's a little bit of both, because one thing I really want to say is, I think a lot of people, when I talk to people about this book, they were worried about mistakes they had made. And they were worried about I had this opportunity and I let it go, or I should have done this and I ended up doing something different. I really learned that you can recover from most mistakes. Like most of us have made mistakes. We've done different things, and that's normal. So there are a lot of different paths. I don't think there's just necessarily one path, for everyone. There's this whole poem about the road not taken or the road less traveled, and I took this one. It made all the difference, but we don't really know the other story, right? We don't know what happened. What if you'd actually gone back and taken the other one? Maybe it would have been great too. Maybe it would have been better. So I do think there's more than one path, but I also think when you talk to people who have found the work they were born to do, they are so excited about it. You can tell that they have found something that is really unique and really special. So even though there's more than one path, I think it's important to kind of work toward whatever this special thing is. Work toward this combination of factors to where we're really happy and we have all the money that we need, and we're doing something that we're really good at. I think that's the goal, right? So it's not like this one elusive thing. But if you look at really successful people, if you look at Beyonce, Beyonce probably could have done a bunch of different things, but isn't it so good that she's doing, what she's doing? Or anyone that you admire, you kind of look at them and you're like, they have really found their thing.
Which speaks to actually another great frame in the book, which is the joy, money, flow concept. And you can kind of use that to start to decipher if there's a few things that you're considering doing, which is something that a lot of our audience runs up against, what should I pick? I have so many things that I want to do. Can you speak a little bit to what that concept is, joy, money, flow?
Absolutely. So in the book, there's a lot of different exercises to help people kind of see, okay, I've got all these different options. What should I do next? What should I be working toward? And what we found is that everybody who's successful, and by successful, I mean absolutely fulfilled in their career, passionate about it and feeling like they're doing something that they're supposed to do, they have these three characteristics. And first of all, they have joy. They're happy in their work. They enjoy what they do most of the time. They're not doing a soul-sucking job. If they have a job, it's a great job. Or if it's something that they've built for themselves, they really enjoy it. And the second quality is money, because there's lots of things you can do that you enjoy, but if you don't get paid for them, then it's a hobby, which is great. It's good to have a hobby, but if you're talking about a career, it has to be financially sustainable. So joy, money, and then the third factor is flow, which is really doing something that you're good at. Really doing something where when you do it, you're immersed in it and the hours just kind of pass by. And it's also really easy for you because it's something that you're good at and other people are like, wow, she's really good at that. It takes me a lot longer to do that, or I'm not good at it. But so I think what we're looking for is this combination of all three factors. We want something that brings joy. We want something that is financially sustainable. We want something that brings flow. And I don't think people will be happy unless they have all three of these factors.
Yeah.
I think you can be a little bit, you can be okay, right? There's lots of people who do jobs they don't love. And that's fine. They get a paycheck. And maybe they're satisfied in other areas of their life. But because life is short, why not try to work towards something, that is not just okay, but is amazing, right? Isn't that the goal?
Absolutely. And I think one of the genius things about this concept is that it applies even if you are in what you consider the work that you're born to do. I know for me, when I thought about this concept of joy and money and flow, you can apply that to revenue streams. Mm-hmm. Whether or not you really want to take this thing on or this project on or this client on. Is it going to be financially viable to the degree that you want? And is it just really something that's deserving of your time and it's aligned with your strengths? Mm-hmm. So I think it's a great litmus test. Absolutely. If you're still searching, but then if you found it, it can also take care of whether or not you should move ahead with a particular project or client.
Totally agree.
So let's talk about expanding your options and then eliminating them, which I think is so great for those of us who, I've coined this term multi-passionate entrepreneur. When I was first getting started, I was so confused because I couldn't pick one thing to do. I loved so many things, from coaching and hip hop and dance and writing and marketing and spirituality, and I felt schizophrenic. So
Interesting.
talk to me about expanding your options and then eliminating them, what you found in the book.
So I think maybe if we go back to somebody who's in that beginning part of their career, I think the wrong advice to them would be, say, just pick one of those things. And that's what everybody says all the time. They're always like, oh, you have to focus. You have to just pick your niche or your niche. Like, you got to do that. And how are you really going to find that combination of factors of joy, money, and flow without expanding your options, without trying a lot of different stuff? So you did that. You did that in your career. I did that. And I think in the beginning part of really trying to figure out what am I good at, and also not just what am I good at, but what is going to be rewarded, in the marketplace. I said yes to a lot of different things. And so I always encourage people when you're starting out, expand your options, do everything that you can to have a lot of different experiences. And then as you become more successful, as you have more experience, then you limit the options. Then you start being more selective. Then you start being like, okay, I am going to apply that litmus test more often. I am going to say, okay, I've got all these different things I could do. What is most aligned? Where can I have the most convergence? What am I really like getting close to? How am I going to have the biggest impact in the world? But I don't think you can necessarily do that when you're just getting started because you don't know.
You can't. And that's the thing I always try and stress to people is to give yourself permission to do a lot of different things without trying to force that focus too fast. Because for some of us, certainly me, not in my DNA to focus right out of the gate. I did not have a clear answer. And I remember somewhat envying people. Josh, my fiance, he knew he wanted to be an actor from like the moment he popped out of the womb. But, I think between 60 and I'd say 80 to 90% of us don't have that.
Right.
So this advice is just so good. And I love you suggest for us to eliminate ideas that don't bring you joy when you think of them.
Right.
Like that's a really smart thing.
Yeah. And so you can have this inferiority complex because you can look and see like successful people and you're like, oh, they must have known like all along. And most of them didn't.
Yes.
Most of them actually went through this nonlinear path. Most of them went through this whole like path of discovery and path of trying things that didn't work out, which is totally fine and totally normal. And they were able to successfully like say goodbye to those things and embrace something else. I don't know what you wanted to be when you grew up, when you were 6 years old or 8 years old.
5 or 6 things.
Yeah,
like my books had all different, like from teacher to speaker to actor to dancer, all the stuff.
Okay, so that's actually still like not too far from what you're doing now. When I was a kid, when I was 6, I wanted to work at Burger King because I thought Burger King was the best restaurant when I was 6 years old.
As naturally.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I think of that a lot now because fortunately I grew out of that. But people are always like, oh, when I was a kid, I wanted to be the president or I wanted to be like the astronaut or whatever. And like, sometimes it's okay to change, right? Sometimes it's okay to evolve.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about what I think is such an important topic. One of the chapters you end with, winners give up all the time. You say that perseverance is good for some goals, but not all of them. So how can we start to know for ourselves and decipher when we should persevere and when it's just time to get out of town?
So along with the inferiority complex, I feel like one of the things that we have in our culture is this notion of never give up. Right, and you must never give up, and you always have to persevere. And it's true in the broad sense of like, okay, never give up on life. Like you're always gonna figure something out.
Never give up on love.
Right, never give up on life or love.
Yeah.
But lots of other things. It's okay. It's totally fine. It's like we have all these like inspirational quotes about it, and there's one called you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, or something, which comes from Wayne Gretzky, the hockey player. And I always think this is interesting because you see this quote everywhere. It's like on the Pinterest, on the Instagram, lots of likes and stuff. But it's like, okay, it's true. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. But should you really keep taking the same kind of shot all the time? Like, I don't know much about hockey, but I would assume you don't have an unlimited opportunity to keep doing the same thing, over and over. Pretty soon your teammates are going to stop, passing the puck to you or whatever. So it's like, the way we figure out when to give up and move on or when to keep going is by asking ourselves 2 questions. 1, is it working? And 2, am I happy? Do I still enjoy this? And I think if you answer yes to both questions, yep, it's working. 2, still happy about it? Great, you keep going. If you answer no to both questions, not working, I'm not happy about it, then you completely let it go. And if it's a mixed answer, it's like, okay, I still enjoy this, but it's not really working, or it's working okay, but I'm kind of ready to move on. That's when something has to tweak, something has to change. And maybe you keep going or maybe you quit, but you have to fix one of those variables. Because again, it has to work and it has to be something you enjoy.
I think there's such freedom too in dropping something and letting them go. You know, one of the things that we do internally on our team, we're pretty focused and we have our calendars planned out. And there's sometimes when we look at our priorities doc and we see that we had an idea perhaps, 6 months ago, 12 months ago, and it's coming up to do it. And all of us collectively will like look at that line on the spreadsheet and everybody just feels a sense of dread. And we admit it and we'll be like, do we really still want to do that? Like, is that still current? Or even if we've started to do something, but we notice we're either hitting a brick wall or we're not getting the results that we want. And there is such freedom to go, we're actually going to stop. Like, we're going to quit that. We're going to drop it. We gave it a try. And it's not for us and it's out of here. And collectively, even though we're a virtual company, collectively, I can feel and even hear the sighs of relief. And it's like high fives and cheers. And I love this idea for us to give ourselves permission to not constantly keep beating our head against the wall and to look at it through those lenses. Is it working and does it give us joy? And I think that, if you discover something that does give you joy and needs to slot over perhaps into the hobby field for a while because you need to have a livelihood, you don't have to let that thing go. It's just kind of rearranging your puzzle pieces.
Quitting is a valuable skill,
Yeah.
right? It's great that you're able to do that because I think a lot of people would be in that same situation, but they would just keep going.
Yes.
Because that's what they know how to do. Or maybe it's working okay, which is also a dangerous thing.
Absolutely.
It's like when I first went to college, I tried to major in accounting. I was terrible at it. And I'm so glad I was terrible at it because if I had just been mediocre at it, maybe I would have kept going, right? But because I was so bad, I was like, this is not going to work. I have to do something else. I ended up getting a degree in sociology, which ended up helping me later, et cetera, et cetera. If you're something that's just okay, maybe you should give up on that too, right?
Yeah, and I think it takes courage. And what I love about this work and what you're giving people such a clear roadmap, and you're giving them the tools to have courage to experiment and to have the time it takes to figure it out for themselves. It's like it's not going to come in an instant, which is what most of us want. But I just think it's such valuable work. And I'm so, so thankful that you did this. Chris Guillebeau, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much, Marie. Thank you.
Now, Chris and I would love to hear from you in the comments below. What is the single biggest insight that you're taking away from today's episode? As always, the best conversations happen after the episode over at marieforleo.com, so go there and leave a comment now. Did you like this video? If so, subscribe, and I would be so grateful if you shared it with your friends. And if you want even more resources to create a business and life that you love, come on over to marieforleo.com and make sure you sign up for email updates because they're awesome. Stay on your game and keep going for your dreams because the world needs that special gift that only you have. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time on Marie TV. Ready to find your voice and sell with heart? We'll show you how. Get started now with our free writing class at thecopycure.com. Side effects include enlarged profits. What? A little sass, right? It's the dress. Well, it feels like work that you're born to do. Like, let's get into it. Like this.